Hello all, hope you're all well. Hope everyone's keeping well. We're nearly at the end of lockdown. Monday is a good day on the 17th where we can start hugging and we can start meeting families indoors and starting to get back to normal life, which is really, really good. Welcome to another episode of the Villains Together podcast. This episode is really to mark the mental health awareness this week. We've got two guests on today. One which is a member of ours and an ambassador, which is Aaron Clark. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you, mate. Good, thank you. How are
Excellent.
you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad at all. Not too bad. And we also have Richard Beale, who was former Villa youth team manager with George Boateng. How you doing, Rich?
I'm good, thanks, Nilesh. You all right?
Yes, I'm not too bad at all. Not too bad. So,
Hi, Aaron.
today, this week has marked the Mental Health Awareness Week, and it's a big week really because it's come at a time where we are about to come out of lockdown and get a bit of normality in life. But there are still people who are suffering. So today, we want to look at that and say, how can people still be in a positive way? And I suppose that's a question for you, Aaron. How can people still be in a positive way after lockdown? It is still going to be difficult for people to get out of houses and stuff like that, and to still talk. So, what would you say to that at the moment?
Yeah, so you got to remember, mental health existed before we had the pandemic. It existed
Yes.
before lockdowns. It's an ever-present issue that many people in society have to go through. And so I guess for me, mate, and for those that are struggling, it's a case of trying to normalize your life that's best suited to you. So normality for people in a general sense of the word will look very different for each and every individual that is struggling. So for a lot of people who are struggling, coming out of lockdown and getting into a normal way of life, seeing their friends, socializing, will be a great thing, but not for everybody will that be the case. There'll be a lot of people that are very apprehensive, very anxious, very unsure of what's going to be around them and how things are going to play out and how people are going to act with them. Depending on the diagnosis, depending on the mental health issue that these people are struggling with, will dictate how they approach post-lockdown. So my advice is just trying to stay stable. Remember the present. So focus on what's happening here and now rather than what's happening tomorrow, rather than what happened yesterday. Let's focus on what we've got right in front of us here and now and take each day as it comes. Getting outside is obviously a huge thing, but when I say getting outside, I don't mean getting outside to the pub surrounded by 100 people who are all drinking outside in the marquee. Just get outside into the open space, get outside on a nice walk, get down to the beach, get down to the river, walk along the canal, whatever it might be that you can do to kind of find that clear headspace. And just take each day as it comes, Nilesh. There is no rush and there's no set deadline on anybody trying to find their feet again in the real world, because the real world has looked very, very different for a lot of people for the last 18 months. And so we need to approach that in the best way possible, but there is no textbook. So the simple answer is, take it as it comes and don't be too distracted or pressured or pushed into trying to do things that you're not comfortable with. Just each day, every day, assess how you're feeling, reflect how you're feeling, and go again tomorrow.
I think it's really useful information there, to be honest, and really great advice. I think at the moment, and I think Rich will agree at the moment. We see a lot now at the moment where there's a lot of online abuse, and we see it every day, and people can get affected by that mentally as well. And you're looking at players that they play them, they're just doing their day job, and they're playing a game, they lose a game. And then the next morning, they're getting abuse. I seen one from Al Ghazi the other day, who's put the actual abuse that he actually got, which was the reason why he left Twitter, and it was shockingly bad. It was hurtful. Rich, you've been in the game for quite a long time. This online abuse is shocking, right? How should players deal with it? Should they just come away from social media, do you think?
It's a tough one. Should they have to? Just because of trolls and people that want to be spiteful and nasty. I think we're in a world now where that seems to be the norm for some people, and it's fantastic to see some of the initiatives that are being carried out to try and put an end to it. But ultimately, I don't think you'll ever put an end to it. There's always going to be some people out there that want to be horrible and nasty. And the footballers know it goes with the territory, but it's still unacceptable and it shouldn't happen. And hopefully, the platforms will put a lot more in place whereby these people will be blocked and stopped from being able to just throw out their vitriol and abuse.
Yeah, when you look at these online abuses, it's a lot of accounts that people create an account, send out an abuse, then that account's then gone and it's deactivated because they've come off it because they don't want to get caught and whatever. And I've seen that a lot of times. I mean, I've had the online abuse as well myself when I've done stuff, and people would comment on whether I've been to a football game before because of the colour of my skin. But then you try and like look up on that profile again, and it's gone. So it's very easy, I think, for someone just to create a profile, go out there, and then be abusive. But one of the questions is, and one of the advices I think we need to give out to people is, people who get online abuse, it can affect them mentally. So how can they deal with that? I suppose, Aaron, that's probably a good question for yourself, really.
Yeah, it's a tough one, mate, and I suppose everybody will deal with that sort of negative stimulus and that really derogatory kind of messaging very differently. There will be some players, some people that can deal with that quite well and kind of just knock it off the shoulder and get on with life. But ultimately, there's no way the human being can just avoid those things and never ever think about them, because they do. And there's always an underlying kind of issue that goes on. And the emotions that one feels when someone says something like that, particularly when it's racism, particularly when it's about sexism, particularly when it's about genderism, all of these real deep and disgraceful things that people say regarding those topics, it will affect someone. But I suppose it's how they deal with it. I think the advice that you can give in a general broad scheme of things, I guess, is, you can to an extent on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be, control and measure the content you are exposed to. Now, I understand that a lot of the trolling and a lot of the abuse is through private messaging, and actually those messages most of the time won't need to be answered or replied to, because those people won't be following those people that they're sending those messages to. But I think what we have to learn is that you are in charge of your own social media platform. There is a high percentage of you being in control of that social media platform, and you can block, ignore, and get rid of most things that you see. Yeah, and you don't have to continuously be in a cycle whereby you're seeing that stuff day in, day out. But I think as a professional footballer, it's particularly difficult when I imagine those messages are coming in thick and fast. They're not just one or two. That there is this dark, evil, vile corner of our football community, or maybe not even football people at all, who knows, that just want to go out there and troll and want to go out there and discriminate other people because they think it's fun, or they're struggling with their own huge insecurities and they need an outlet to be able to express the way they're feeling. And I think that's part and parcel of social media, and I appreciate what Rich is saying. I guess as a professional footballer, as a semi-professional footballer, as anybody in the sport that's in the limelight, there is that expectation to have to kind of see that sort of stuff, but it doesn't make it acceptable, doesn't make it at all right. I think it's disgraceful. It's awful stuff. But we live in a society whereby anybody has an opinion and anybody can have a view, and whether those opinions or views are racism, a disagreement of what colour chocolate you like, it's there, and people are allowed to think what they want to think, but it doesn't make it right, and we need to crack down on it. And it's nice to see the initiatives that are ongoing, but social media really needs to start pulling their finger out of their backsides a little bit more to make sure that these people can't continue doing this stuff, because it's unacceptable in every shape or way of the form. It's disgraceful.
You see a lot of calls for education on the racism side of things now, where education is key, making people know why religion is celebrated and why people believe in certain religions, and why that sort of religion is important to people. But I also think now, when I start looking at some of these things as well, a lot of the online hate is from a younger generation as well, and maybe there's there's a scope for them to have education on social media, how to deal with social media, how to use social media from a very young age, and that should maybe be incorporated. I mean, Rich, you've dealt with a lot of youngsters in time coaching. You think that's something that will benefit youngsters?
Yeah, 100%. As well as the trolls and the abuse, I still don't think a lot of people are fully aware that everything they put out there is going to be seen by the rest of the world for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And people will put stuff on there that, in 5-10 years' time, I think they'd really, really regret often. And the education would really, really help them to make more considered decisions when posting anything. That's before we start talking about the abuse. So, yeah, education's massive on it. And I know the FA every year, they go into football clubs and they speak to the young players and they speak to the first team players, and they do it quite well, actually. They put up examples without any of the players knowing of a tweet or something on Instagram. And they'll say, does anyone recognise this? And it's something that's really embarrassing or really daft. And then they'll reveal it's one of the people in the room, and it just highlights to them, look, you put this on Twitter 5 years ago, what you doing, what you thinking? And everyone's laughing. They do it in a funny way, but it's part of that education process. And the more workshops like that, the better protected young footballers will be from putting on something that could get them in hot water further down the line. And obviously, then the more initiatives there are for the general public against the abuse, and the more that these people get punished, then hopefully that will reduce.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, some really good stuff there, guys. I mean, let's go on to a bit of football now. Rich, yourself, you had a spell at Villa, and you had an assistant manager with George Boateng, an absolute Villa legend. He was a great player for us. How was your time at Villa in terms of, what was it like working with the staff there? I know another person came. Was it Aman? He came over with you as well. Was he? He was is the analysis there guy. So what's it like in terms of Amar? Sorry.
Yeah, he came over. Yeah, he came over from Birmingham just after me. He's a great lad. He's doing a lot with the first team at the minute. Does the fitness and conditioning. But I love my time at Villa. It was a shame that, in a way, that it was only a short spell. I decided to go and with Jimmy Shan at Solihull to work at first team level and to work with Jimmy. But my time at Villa was brilliant. The staff and everybody at the club was fantastic. It's a club, as you all know, on the up, in really, really good hands. And Mark Harrison, I owe him a lot for giving me the job and for taking me on. And I really enjoy my time working with George. I've stayed in touch with George and a lot of the people that are there, and the academy's on an upward trajectory, and the whole club's on an upward trajectory. So fantastic.
Well, in terms of the Villa youth, there's a lot been said about the Villa youth, and it's been really, really positive. The sort of players that we've got there now, we're looking at these players, and they are looking really exciting. I mean, what was it like working with these youngsters?
Yes, as you said, some really, really good players, and also some players there that are great lads and good players that probably haven't had as much of the current coverage that the others have got. But it's great that no surprise to me that they're having such a good run in the Youth Cup. Big game this Friday against West Brom, local derby. So a lot of interest there locally. And, it's also great to see that a few of those boys have featured on the bench and in the Villa team over the last, Jacob Ramsey, mainly over the last year, starting in the team and performing really, really well. And then, the likes of Carney and Kane and Jaden have all been on the bench, and that bodes really well for the future. And, also shows that Dean and Richard and Craig Shakespeare and John Terry are all, looking and monitoring what's going on. When I was there, it's fantastic. The under-18 games, under-23 games, all those guys I just mentioned from the first team, we're always watching the games and taking the time out to do that. And, when you've got a staff like that, it's fantastic for the youth, and just shows that all those four people are real good football people, and you couldn't be in better hands.
I think me and Aaron could listen to that all day long. You know, it's just fascinating to listen to. You know, as football Villa fans and football fans, you know, it's great. But Aaron, you know, we've seen these youngsters, and they were going out against Liverpool. Liverpool, Champions League winners, league winners. Um, and Liverpool didn't put out a weak side. Salah, Mane were playing, but these our lads held their own, and they gave them a fright as well. What a time that was for them.
Yeah, incredible. And if there was anything that any of those boys could take away from that night was the psychological boost that it would have given them. It's coming up against a team like Liverpool. Just the fact that the team was Liverpool. It's merely the name, seeing it on the scoreboard, seeing it on the starting sheet. Who are we playing tonight? A Liverpool first team. A Liverpool squad. That's a massive, massive feat for a lot of these boys. And there's a hell of a lot of talent in that youth side. There's a hell of a lot of skill and ability. And it's lovely to see a fair few of them getting themselves mixed in with the first team trainings and, like Rich says, on the bench. And I think it's about just giving them a little bit every now and again, a little bit of something to bite on, something a little bit to motivate them to keep pushing themselves. Because ultimately, as a young person playing football in the professional game or looking to make that step up to the professional game, you need to keep working hard. There's a real slim ratio of players that make it to the top of the game. We've been very lucky in recent years that Jack Grealish is one of those standouts for us. I truly believe there are 3, 4, 5, possibly even half a dozen players of the Jack Grealish ilk that I believe, if hard work happens and they keep their heads down and they knuckle down and they keep working, can make it to the top. Carney being the standout person for me at the moment in the middle of the park. He's phenomenal. He's a 17-year-old playing in a 30-man's body. He's a great player, and he's hugely exciting for this club. And I'm sure Rich will agree there. He's got something special, and the boy is magic.
It's lovely to see them. About him, isn't there? There's a lot of people, a lot of clubs are rumoured to be wanting this wonder kid, which is really positive. But also, as a Villa fan, you're like, oh, please don't go. You sound exciting, so we want to see you play. We don't want to see you go. But Rich, you watched that Liverpool game. What was it like for yourself? As you coach these guys, and then you're sitting back and you're watching them playing against the likes of Salah and that. You must be thinking like a proud moment. I'm guessing from your side.
Yeah, I it was just great to see lads and people getting that opportunity, getting that platform, and not only that, performing on the night. They were brilliant. They were really, really good. Gave a great account for themselves, and players like Arjun and Brad Young as well, that perhaps don't always get as much, as many mentions, but performed fantastic. And it was just great for themselves, for their families, that not only did they get the opportunity, but the important thing was they really stepped up on the night and showed what they're capable of now. It's a big difference between doing it in one game and doing it consistently, and that is the difference between the ones that will forge a career or play in the first team and the ones that won't. And hopefully, they as many of them as possible can do that, because, as I said, they're all great lads. Pleasure to work with.
The one person you mentioned, and amongst the Asian fans and the Asians within football, the South Asians, Arjun Reiki, when we seen him on the pitch, it was unbelievable, to be honest. He was more like a role model there already, and he's only so young. But it gave a lot of people belief that, a lot of people from my community, my ethnic background, believe to say, you know what, we could do this, and I was getting phone calls the next day to say, you know what, this Arjun Reiki, I can't believe it, he's at Villa, and he played against Liverpool, and they were unbelievably shocked, but they were proud at the same time.
Absolutely right.
I have spoken to Arjun, messaged him a few times, and he has mentioned yourself, Rich, saying you're a great coach and everything else. And but what's he like as a player?
I'll pay him later.
What was he like as a player to coach?
You know what? Number one, again, and as a person, what a lad. Worked hard every single day. Really, really humble. Really well mannered. Brought up excellently, and if I'm honest, in the spell I was there, he started off and he struggled a little bit, but as the year went on, because of that hard work, because of that humility, he got better and better and better. And it's no surprise to me now to see him, being a major part of that Youth Cup team and to see him play in that Liverpool game and play so well. So he's got a real chance. He's as I said, he's a great lad from a great family. And like you said, there's absolutely no reason for anybody, whatever anybody's background, whatever anybody's where they're born or anything, there should be nothing to stop you. If you're determined, and Arjan's hopefully going to show everybody that is the case. And if he can bring many more Asian players into the game, then what a fantastic, like you say, role model he would be for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Aaron, we've seen the progression as well in the youth squad, like Richard mentioned, with Ramsey coming through, making it on the bench, but also starting. And when he started, he didn't look out of place. He looked very comfortable. Rarely really makes many mistakes. And it looks like he's happy to play there, and he has no bother playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's exactly the type of player that I always envisaged Villa bringing into the ranks at some point under Dean Smith. Him and his younger brother Aaron, who's an equally, or if not a betterly skilled player. Both the Ramsey brothers are a big talent, and it's great to see Jacob involved in the first team stuff. He is a good player, and he's really proving that he is that, and he's really proving that the opportunities that he's getting from Dean are worthwhile. And I just can't see where he puts his foot wrong. He comes in, he does a shift. If he starts the game, there's very rarely a time where I think, oh, mate, you need to come off, or this isn't the game for you. He's still learning, he's still developing. But I think what's important with JJ is that, Dean clearly trusts him. There's clearly a rapport between him and the coach. Dean has a lot of faith in him. And I think JJ is just doing his very best, and he's working his his backside off to make sure that every time he comes off that field, whether it's after 90 minutes or 25 or 45 minutes, he's put a shift in. And I can see him being a big part of this team moving forward. There's no chance that he's moving on. There's no chance that he's shuffling down the pack again. He's well and truly in that mix now, and I'm looking forward to see him even more established next season. He's been a lovely addition to see. And he's a Villa boy through and through, and that's massive. I love to see that. I love to see the boys that have been at the club since 11, 12, 13 years old coming through and playing first team football. That's the dream well and truly smashed, isn't it?
I think talking about Villa boys through and through. Louis Barry. I mean, Rich, how good was he on the training pitch for you?
Yeah, very, very good again. Obviously, everyone saw that against Liverpool. His speed, his finishing, and that's the key one. I mean, the game for me is all about both boxes, and if you've got a player like Louis in the opposition box, you're onto a winner. You're going to score goals, and Louis has obviously come with a bit of a hefty price tag, and the tag of being at Barcelona, and people have got to be patient with him as well. People can't put too much pressure on him. But again, another good lad, another good player, and another one with high hopes for the future. But as I said, it'd be really, really helpful to him for sure if everybody gives him time. Even though he's chomping at the bit to get in the first team, he's got to get ahead of a lot of good players, and the club will be patient with him. And again, another one that we wish you all the best for the future.
No, I think you're right. I think there's so many names in this youth team that we can pick out, and we can say we're excited to see it. But yeah, Louis Barry is one of them ones that we are really excited to see and see how he gets on. But one of the things that I really liked about that Liverpool game was, although they played professionally and they give a good account for themselves, they were still young lads. So at the end, they were excited to get the shirts. And I just thought that was just amazing, because at the end of the day, they're still young. And they're still, Louis Barry was giving his shirt away, but then someone took someone else's shirt, and then ran back to get his shirt back, because it was like, oh yeah, I've just played Liverpool against that shirt. So it was really, really good to see. But yeah, I think we're on a positive road with the youth team, and it's great. But one last thing we want to touch on, I know, Rich, you did the Nick Moles tournament. which has been going for a few years now. And obviously, it's in honour of your best mate, who did pass away of a suicide, which is really real bad shame. And the tournament that you do is massively popular. Dean Smith's attended, Gary Monk, Gareth Barry, and it's massively popular. And I know people that have played in it. It was really well organised. How's that all going for you, that charity, and how is that progressing?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead of it. We've sort of had the go ahead to say that we can do the tournament again, this year, which is fantastic. Raises lots of money for Kaleidoscope, a great charity that's putting a lot of money into mental health and specifically around a tech service for those in need. And we haven't got a date as of yet. We've run it the last 2 times at Solihull Moors Football Club. Again, we haven't been able to confirm anything about where it's going to be yet. We're talking to Solihull and some other people, and hopefully we'll be able to put out the details for that. But yeah, I mean, people like Dean have been very much, very, very supportive. And like you said, he attended, and Gareth Barry was there. So, it'd be great to see a lot of Villa fans come along and support the event, or even put a team in, or any companies or businesses that want to sponsor it when the details all come out. Please get in touch. That'd be great.
And you're on Twitter, aren't you? So the Nick Moles, they've got the Nick Moles account on Twitter that people can get in touch with, or can't they? Or
and the website. The website's the best one, probably www.thenickmolecup.co.uk.
That's perfect. I mean, it's a great cause, right, Aaron? People playing football and raising money for a great cause like that. It's amazing. And obviously, playing football is one of the things that puts your mind in a positive state, especially when you're winning. So it's great, like Aaron said, he's already offered to play.
Yeah,
I'm in.
What position do you play, Aaron?
I play anywhere. If you need a wall or a tank, I'm in.
I can see them guns, mate. You've been at the gym.
I don't even call him Aaron anymore. I call him the unit.
We know what you've been doing on lockdown. You've been pumping iron, mate. Fair play to you.
Guys, like I said, it's been great to have you on today. Real pleasure. Rich, thanks for taking time out. Aaron, thanks again.
Thanks,
like I say, people, if you are suffering with mental health and you are feeling a little bit down and you want to just talk, Villains Together are here to help you out. We have Aaron, and we have other places that you can go to. We can advise you to go to and talk about things. So we are here to help you through any difficult periods. We'd like to thank Fans for Diversity and Anwar for his continuous support. Also like to thank the Aston Villa Foundation as well, who support us all the time with your Links initiative. A big thank you to Luke Roper Clothing. If you want 20% off Luke Roper clothing, just use the code VT20 at the end of your order and you'll get a nice little 20% off. Thank you all for joining Up the Villa, and we'll see you all soon.
Up the Villa.
Cheers, guys.